this is a very exciting session, team. I know I say that every time I come on this on the practice foundations, but we've really got some awesome things to share with you today, because we've got our awesome kai kōrero Roimata, and she's going to start by talking to a special karakia that relates to what she's going to share today about Hautū Waka. So, kia koe e hoa.
Morena tātou. E mihi ana kia koe, Angie. Morena tātou te whānau. So this karakia was written specifically for the mahi that we do inside of Hautū Waka. Inside the karakia, it was written by, I'm going to say his name, Temete Lohman. Amazing fella who he is a linguist inside of Te Māori. He's brilliant. And a few years ago, Papa and I asked him to write a whakariterite for us, something to prepare us. A whakaara is what we called it. And he's done that. Actually, he did more than that. He did two. So I'll be doing the opening karakia for us, and then Riri, who you'll meet soon, will close us off using the karakia. So just have a listen to the kupu. If you've listened to the previous videos, you'll hear familiar words that we use inside of Hautū Waka. Kia pika tātou ne. Tēnei te ara a uta, tēnei te ara a tai. Kia whakariterite ānuku, kia whakariterite ārangi. Nau mai te rapunga, nau mai ngā tohu. Ko ngā tohu ka kitea. Ko ngā kitenga ka tohua. Tohua te whainga, tohua te whiwhinga, tohua te rawinga. Ko tēnei te waka ka tere, ki te whaiao, ki te māramatanga, tai aho aho, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
Tuatahi he mihi. Nui kia koe, Roimata mo te karakia o te ata. Nō reira, i te whānau no mai haere mai ki tēnei wāhi kōrero. Ka tū te maunga hikirangi kia mihi atu ki o koutou maunga tapu. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Angie Tangaireo no te taira whitu, ko au te kai tohu tangata whenua of the Auckland Co-Design Lab. So morena i te whānau. Such a pleasure to be online with you today. If you're new to the space, I'm Angie Tangaire, and I'm the Director Tangata Whenua at the Auckland Co-Design Lab. So welcome if this is your first time. If you've been with us before, it's lovely to have you back in the space. Thank you, Roimata, for the karakia. I'm going to just introduce the team online and then talk through what our session is going to what we're going to cover in the session and the rhythm of the session this morning. So just wanted to let you guys know that the Practice Foundations team is Lee Ryan. She might give us a little wave. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can just message Lee and she'll be able to help you. We've also got Kiana Kaki on the line too, who's part of the lab. Give us a little wave, Kiana. We're a bit sad because Kiana's off to live her best life overseas shortly, so we're going to miss her, but she's part of the team as well. Of course, we've got Roimata online, who will be our kai kōrero today, but today is an exciting day, Te whānau, because today is the official beginning of our formal partnership with Healthy Families Far North to host the Practice Foundations together, which is a flash way of saying we just want to spend more time with our awesome friends and learn more about what they've been up to. So it's my pleasure to introduce Riri Motu, who's on the, give us a wave, Riri. Riri's going to introduce herself in a minute, but he mare kura no te rarawa ia, so it's our real pleasure to have Riri online with us and to join the Practice Foundations team. We also have Tale in the team as well, but she's not available today. She'll be at our next Practice Foundation. So Riri will introduce herself in a moment, but we feel really grateful to have a close working relationship with the Healthy Families Far North team, and for them to bring all of their mātauranga and all their skills into the Practice Foundations space. So if you're new to the space, I'll just say a little bit about what we hope we can curate in the Practice Foundations, and that's really a safe space for our system change practitioners to share their knowledge, their practice, their learning as they work towards equity in Aotearoa, better outcomes for our whānau. So we really enjoy having our kai kōrero share their practice, their knowledge, and then we encourage the whānau online to think about that and to share their knowledge and connect with each other. So that's the purpose of the space. There's a little bit of housekeeping I just need to do before we hand over to Dee. We've got a new process for you to receive your calendar invites, and if that's not working or you've got feedback or if there's issues with that, then I'm going to get you to contact Kiana and she'll help you out. So if there's any issues, I think she's going to drop into the chat that she's happy to help anyone who is having issues with the new process. So today is really about us connecting. We're going to hear from Roimata. We're going to connect as a whānau and do some whanaungatanga. And then Roimata is going to take us through a really, really awesome kōrero about how she is experiencing and deepening the practice with Hautū Waka. So we'll do some whanaungatanga in a moment. You'll hear the kōrero from Roimata, and then we'll do another breakout, and then there's an opportunity for us to share as a whānau. I think that is all of my jobs done. Team, is there anything else I need to say? Awesome. So I'm going to hand it now to Riri to introduce herself, and Riri will introduce Roimata. Kia ora tātou.
Tēnā rā tātou, he taumata kōrero, he tawahata, he tahawai, ka puta ki te maki i tēnei māngai o tātou, ko ngā maunga whakatipi o kaha, e rere atu nei, ki a koutou, e aku māreikura, e aku whatukura. Ko haumai ki tēnei wahanga o tātou, e mihi kātika ana ki tēnei kaupapa o tātou. Nō reira, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko e tēnei, heuri tēnei no roto mai o te rarawa kaiwhare, no roto mai o ngā iwi o muri whenua, e mihi nei ki ngā maunga whakahi tēnā tātou katoa. No mai, rā ki ngā hua. My name is Elizabeth Motu, Riri Motu as well. I work for Healthy Families, proud Tai Tokero Uri, descendant. And so I live in Ahipara and work for Healthy Families. No mai rā ngā hua o te rā, whakarongo pikarikari ki tēnei whakaeringa kōrero a Roimata, he waikato, he mani a poto, he ngati a pakura, anō te kaukau roa pātātere, he piko he taniwha, he piko he rangatira. I'll introduce you to Roimata Taniwha-Pao'o, takes it as her mandate to push the systems for a better world for he tamariki mo ona uri whakahiki. Growing up in South Auckland, she also was grown up and brought up by her nanny, as we all love. And also went to Kohanga Reo, later into full immersion. And with the background of teaching rongoā Māori and working in libraries, Roimata now works as a ground level within the community's co-design solutions with whānau. She prioritises connects with whānau, with land and the community in order to create a better environment for raising our tamariki, our uri whakaheke, for a better world. Ka hoatu au te rākau kōrero kia Roimata, ki tēnei rangatira o tātou. E Roimata, tēnā koe, e te tuakana.
Tēnā koe, e rere. Heka, te nui hoki o ngā kōrero rā. I was just saying, my goodness, what she just said was a bit pagan. It's a lot to live up to, but really, this is just a South Auckland girl who lives inside of Te Ao Māori, practices Te Ao Māori on a daily and can't actually see any other way. So really, the work that we're going through today is literally the mahi that we've been doing every day. So, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koe e riri mo tō kōrero reka rawa atu. Tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou, kua rau mai ki raro i te kaupapa o tēnei rā. Ko wai hoki tēnei he tika kōrere, ko Roimata Taniwha-Pao'o tōku inga. My whānau hail from Waikato. However, I do have a pika from Te Rarawa in Whangape. My mum is from there. But because I've never been there, right? So I always forget it. But he tohu tēnā, he tohu, just to get back home. That's what it's saying. Let me just make sure that I can broadcast my screen properly. What are you guys seeing? The right one? Ka pai. Well, no mai haere mai tātou. We will be taking a look at through Hautū Waka. Now there are some prefaces before we carry on. We've done a few iterations. Well, not a few. We've done iterations on the graphics, so I'll take you through that. The kōrero that pertains to Hautū Waka, we're only going to the phasing. We're only going to brush on that really, really lightly. If you need a bit more in-depth kōrero about the phases, please, I encourage you, go back and listen to the previous 2 years on this mahi. So let's carry on. Let's take a look through the mahi of Hautū Waka. Hautū Waka is a practice that has been implemented and worked on since our tupuna came on the waka. So it's been a thought processing for a long time. It's not something that we just made up. The phases inside of Hautū Waka, though, we've picked out. When I say we, I see myself, Papa, actually, it was him. He was just like, use these phases. And I was like, okay, then. So he told us which ones to use, and that's what we're using today. We know that there are about 55 phases. So just be grateful. We're not going through 55 today. We're going to do about 7. I'm grateful because 55, these 7 are doing my head in. Imagine what 55 would do. First phasing that we have in this graphic, this is whakarite. Whakarite is around exactly that. Rite, get ready. So the word whakarite is to get ready all at the same time. So preparation for your journey, preparation of the waka, preparation of the crew that you're taking on. Once you're ready, then we're taking off on our journey, and everybody goes into a new space of te rapunga. This is a space where you know where you're going, you know what your trajectory is, but you're not too sure how you're going to get there. That's what rapu is, to search. And so the act of searching is te rapunga. And then we've got a te kitinga. So once you're in your searching phase, you've taken off on your journey, and then you're looking for ways to project you forward to your end goal. This is te kitinga. Te kitinga can be taken from 2 perspectives, from multiple perspectives, actually. So this graphic doesn't do it justice. But what it's saying is, I've got my perspective, and this is what I'm seeing. And then I can see my friend, she has another perspective, and it's way more clearer than mine, because actually I'm wearing contacts today and my prescription's out. So that my mate is seeing things tohu a lot more clearer than I am, for real. Then once we've got our tohu and we're citing some stuff, then we go into a space of te whāinga. Te whāinga is when we're looking at the tohu and we dig a little bit deeper into what those tohu mean. Te whāinga te whiwhinga. Te whiwhinga is when you can see the end goal, so you can see where you want to get to, but there's just a lot more work. You've got tides to get through, you've got waves, you've got manu, you've got all of this work still to get there. So you can get to the space, you've just got to do a bit more to attain that. And then you've got te rawinga. Te rawinga will always be your end goal, will always be your ending. Rawe is the word that is most prominent in that. Like when we say ka rawe e tama, well done, boy, well done. I haven't said that to my kids because I haven't done that much. But ka rawe, what are the good things, but what are the learnings that you've had on that journey? And here we're just going to put up a map so that you can be able to have a look at it. So again, whakarite, preparing for your journey, venturing into the unknown, sighting tohu, exploring tohu, and te whiwhinga. And then you've got te rawinga. So for this next piece, oh, why is it not working? Oh, there we go. Now we're going to do we're going to put you guys into some breakout groups. And we're going to get you to do a bit of tūhonohono, or a bit of whanaungatanga, using these questions. On your journey, you need a waka. What we want to know is, how is your waka? How are you doing? And how are you going? So those are just the 2 questions that you're going to have. We've allocated maybe 8 minutes for this kōrero. And so just meet everybody, introduce yourself, then have a kōrero about your waka and how you're doing. Tēnā tātou, nau mai, hoki mai. We have a few additions to our tira. So no mai haere mai. And mai haere mai ki wainga nui e tātou. I hope that you had a good kōrero and a good catch up or an introduction to what we're going to be delving into today. So for this mahi, we've already done some work around Te Rapunga. That was the first piece that we did. Please go and have a look at that. That was from a few years back. Last year, we did some mahi inside of Te Kitenga about tohu saite. And this year, we're going to be focusing on Te Whainga, exploring the tohu, but what that looks like. So in order to explore the tohu, we need to think about it inside of a triangulation. And to do that, why is it not changing? I am not impressed with this thing. To do that, I want to draw us into a karakia. Well, some people know this as a karakia, but and we've been saying it for a long time. But what it actually is a roadmap and it's a reminder. But it speaks to the triangulation inside of the environment that we live in. So tuhia ki te rangi, tuhia ki te whenua, tuhia ki te moana, kia rongo te ao, kia rongo te pō. It's written in the sky, it's written in the whenua, or on the whenua, it's written on the moana, on the ocean, on the water, so that the night can hear, so that the day can hear. Let's delve into this as in, let's take a look at some of the tohu as a singular piece. Because don't forget, we're going to be doing triangulation. So we want to be able to look at the tohu as a single entity, but also bring them back together. So let's go into, tuhia ki te moana. Now these examples are what have been taken from our environment within the last 12 months. So in this, the first picture that you're seeing is a natural high tides that were in Coromandel last year. Last year, we're talking January, also the year previous in December. So they were a constant thing. That photo, and I apologize, that's my brother's photo. It's a bit marred at the moment, but he snapped the shot of Ruakaka because that's where he lives, and he was like, what is happening with the tides? It was so far out to the point where he could actually go out and pick seafood that he usually has to dive for. So, but this wasn't a normal occurrence. It was a constant. It had happened 3 or 4 times throughout that summer season. So those are tohu on its own, right? We won't go into what they mean, but they're just things that were cited. So tohu ki te moana. Tohu ki te whenua. These are, I'm a tree person. I love trees. I can sit there and talk to trees for ages. So I noticed that in December, October, November in 2022, the white flowers inside of the native bush, they flowered late. So they usually flower around October. These ones didn't come out until late November, early December. So this one is hauhere. We're talking about all of the white flowers, right? Like koromiko, like puawananga. This one's hauhere. We're talking about faux. All of they all flower around about the same time, but they didn't flower until late. That was an indicator. The other indicator was that that the pipi wharaurua, it didn't sing until later. It didn't sing until around about late November, early December. Well, in my region anyway. And their tangi is quite distinct. And once they start singing, they will keep singing for about 8 weeks-ish, thereabout. And then once they stop, then another manu will take over. That gives us the sign that the season, that the type of summer is changing. But he stopped singing about 4 weeks in. She stopped singing about 4 weeks in. Those in itself are indicators. So the whenua knew something's coming. And usually it wasn't just the puawānanga and the white flowers. It also happened with the pohutukawa, which also bloomed late. The blooming late of these rako tell us that it's going to be cold. Let's have a look at the next one. This was probably, and this has also come up within the last, on the 23rd of February was the last time, this year, 23rd of February, this happened again. Now, these aren't common. I've only ever seen them as an adult. Maybe it's because I didn't care, but within the last 2 years, I've seen them 3 times in the last 2 years. So this is kura hau awatea. On your left is kura hau awatea. On your right is kura hau po. And they call it a natural phenomena. And it's when the ice particles, when the atmosphere gets so cold that it crystallizes the ice particles and it causes the light to refract back into making this halo-like thing. Now, it's stunning to look at. If ever you see one, you're really, count yourself really fortunate, but also know that our tupuna use this as a tohu that a storm is coming, that something is, but this is the problem, right? You don't know whether it's going to be a big storm or a small storm. This one, we saw this in December in the Kura Hau Po, which is the lunar one. We saw that in December 2022. Then I saw it again in Raglan in January 2020. What was it? Late January, early Feb 2023. But what does this mean when we pull all of those singular tohu and bring them together to try and figure out what is it that they're talking about? Well, what we see, this is the triangulation whakaaro anyway. So we think about these questions. What did we see? What did we hear? And what did we feel inside of the environment? Well, what we saw was that a kura hau po had come up. A kura hau awatea had come up as well. And what did we hear? Well, we heard that the pipi wharaurua, or we didn't hear the pipi wharaurua for as long as they usually go. And what did we feel? Well, we felt that temperature dropped because last year, 2022 December summer wasn't as hot as the previous years, right? And it was just a little bit colder. So we knew that. But how can we bring this together to figure out what in the world's happening? What in Aotearoa is happening? Well, we know that something's going to happen with the weather. So it just makes sense for us to turn to the lunar cycles, or maramataka, te takanga mai o te marama. Now, inside the moon phases, there are certain times that you can guarantee that it's going to rain. There are 2. One being the tamatia moon phase. That's a time where it's the weather is just unpredictable. And the tohunga, our tupuna would always say, there's no point going on the water because you probably won't catch anything. 1, because the fish don't really come out during a tamatia moon. And 2, the weather's going to be crap. And it's likely going to be windy. If it's not windy, it'll be raining. You can guarantee that. Even in summer. I checked it. Every tamatia this summer has rained or showered or rain or something. So we knew that something was going to happen on the tamatia moon. We also had a look at our kaunui, but the Auckland flooding in 2023 happened underneath the tamatia moon. And we were like, oh, wow, that's the big thing. That's what the tohu we're going towards. No. What it was leading towards was what was going to happen, but we had no idea. Well, thanks to Met Service. But under our kaunui moon, Cyclone Gabrielle hit. And especially then is a bit more contentious because we've got te taringa mai o te tai. So we've got 2 high tides at that time. But again, the environment knew what was happening. We just had to bring it all together to figure out what does this look like. Thankfully, we had the maramataka to figure out, like, if it's weather, it's probably going to fall in between these ones. And we were right. The other one that you can probably guarantee that there would be rain, but only a little bit, is the Tangaroa moon phase. But we erred toward the tamatea, and it was right. Now, for this kōrero that we're doing today, we want to think about the environments that we work in on an everyday basis. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do this at home, because who am I kidding? I Hautū Waka my kids. Like, just the thought processing, I try and Hautū Waka them. But let's bring us back to the mahi that we do on an everyday basis. And particularly the mahi that we do with community and whānau inside of that community. Then let's think about our mahi that we do in collaboration across the system. Then let's think about central government. That's what we call the systems levers, those that should make it easier for us. And then we want to think about the triangulation piece. What is it that we're seeing? What is it that we're hearing? And what is it that we're feeling inside of that system across those three sectors? And then inside of that, once you've highlighted those things, let's start thinking about what these might actually lead to and what the opportunities would be inside of those spaces once you triangulate and bring them all together. So the next few minutes, soon, we're going to put you into some breakout rooms for about 15 minutes. So you'll have an opportunity to have a really good kōrero with your people. But we want you to think about the mahi that you do across the system, using the triangulation, answering these questions. So just take a moment to think about, or for you to drop into what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling. Note these things down. Then talk about the tohu that you're seeing from where you're from. And then start thinking about the opportunities these tohu might point towards. Now, what we want to start thinking about is, how might we, as systems collaborators, how might we collectivize on the opportunities we see inside of our work based on the tohu that we triangulate? Because there's probably common tohu across the board, but we want to start thinking about those opportunities so that we can collectivize those opportunities and work towards it. We're not going to get to that collectivization piece at the moment. You might be able to get to it inside of your rōpū. So in your rōpū, please take note of what you're seeing, hearing, feeling. Take notes also of the tohu that are coming up, but then think about and also write down, because we're going to get you to put it into the chat when you come back. Think about the opportunities that these might lead toward. Nā tātou. No mai, hoki mai. Lee or Kiana, can you just give me a thumbs up when everyone is back? Everyone's still coming. Ka te whai, hoki mai, hoki mai, hoki mai. Oh, now I see my red sheet. Ka pai, ko hoki mai tātou katoa. No mai rā. I hope that time was a good time of reflection, but also of tohu sighting, but also of voicing opportunities. At this time, we want you to do a bit of whakawhiti kōrero. So can you please write your sightings and your opportunities and what you came across in the chat, but also please feel free to share your kōrero out to everybody. And if you have any pātai along the way, please do that whilst you're sharing. So we'll leave this time open. If you feel brave enough, please unmute yourself and kōrero away. Oh, he pātai tau, rere ahu. Pātai mai.
Kia ora tātou katoa. Ko rere ahu ahau. Kai mahi tēnei no Healthy Families South Auckland. Not necessarily apartheid, but I thought I'd share the experience that we had in our rōpū. Because I think the first tohu was noticed straight away, but more of the absence of listening. So unfortunately, I stepped away from my computer for a second, and I didn't hear the tohu that came to be. So that in itself was an identifier in the way that we conducted our conversation, which in turn turned into a really good discussion with 3 different perspectives within the span of 8 minutes. So that was really cool. Just thought I'd share this out, and I hope our little kapa is okay with that. So we had interesting whakaaro. One was based around mahi, particularly in the sense that some of us work in the health sector. So smoke-free auahi kore is a big kaupapa that is happening at the moment. And we try to think about, those that triangulation. What do we see? What do we feel? What do we hear? When we connect with our communities, like there is a huge sense of disbelief and shock that this is something that is now coming back into conversation with the way that our country is moving forward. So at such a big level. And I think it challenges us so much because in the past, like the things that we have seen historically is that it's not a good habit to showcase within our communities. For example, it's easily accessible for our tamariki and our whānau to get. So for this to come back in and see how things are moving, like that's been quite a big thing. But a really interesting kōrero came up, and some of the things that we're hearing, the community have finally had their tangi. They've finally finished, having a moan about what's happening, and now they are wanting to do some action. So opportunity in that shows that there is a willingness to change the way that people think and approach that particular kaupapa. Another aspect that we had spoken about was again the connection to taiao, with one of our hoa holding a bit of a background within that space, and for him, for him it was that the emotions that he holds in a particular time can reflect the way he interprets the tohu that come to be. So in a sense, preparing yourself before you move into a particular space can interpret or redirect the tohu that you observe. It can influence the way that you notice those things, the seeing, the feeling, and the hearing. But also a change of environment, a change of space, moving from a space of taiao to a space of tangata, also has its own different challenges in understanding and interpreting. So the things that you would initially all be comfortable seeing and hearing and feeling are not always going to be the same opportunity or outcome that you would get in a different place or a different context. So that was really interesting to see. And I think the third one was particularly around people and communities, is that often in the absence of some of these senses or some of these tohu, we start to generate our own. We start to generate our own tohu, and that in itself is a challenge because we can, again, influence our own way of thinking, influence our emotions and our own interpretations and journey. So when there is an absence of that, it's an opportunity to actually be still and to be tau, to recollect yourself, to recenter yourself. So it was a pretty full-on conversation, and all of that came from the fact that we'd missed probably the key questions that weren't on the slides. So maybe a bit of a tohu there opened my ears. Kia ora tātou.
And I'm not surprised by that. Reriahu and I, we travelled with our tira, we travelled to Italy together. So when he said that, I was like, yep, typical. Typical, you didn't listen. But also wanting to acknowledge some of the, a lot of the truth in that kōrero, right? Around our perspectives being marred and how we perceive the tohu based on how we feel, which is why it's important that you're not on a waka on your own. Because when you're on this journey toward a something, it's important to have those different skill sets that can see things differently to you. And you might be in the same situation at the same time, but how I'm feeling is different to how my mate's feeling. And so are the tohu a thing? Are the tohu that I'm seeing a thing? Are you seeing that as well? So that's the he tika rawa atu tēnā kōrero, ai marika. Thank you for some of the kōrero that we're getting through inside of the chat. Please take a chance to have a bit of a nohi through that. There was a kōrero around the smoking, the anti-smoking, and particularly probably around the taking away of that initiative. Whakaaro on that, because I don't work in that sector, what are the whispers on the wind regarding something like that? That's not a question to you, but it's a probing of a thought. What are the whispers that you're hearing from whānau inside of the system, and then from the policyholders? It might not necessarily just be about the smoking piece. It might be about another of something else, which we won't talk about. Heaps of other stuff. The floor is still open for you to kōrero. We've still got a few minutes for that. I'm seeing in the chat that there is seeing a resurgence for iwi and community taking back control, proactively working with government agencies. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been doing some mahi and having a look, particularly with stuff that's happening overseas. In another hat of mine, I work with and for Brainwave Trust, and we've been looking into how Mātauranga Māori as a leading paradigm into how our tupuna were parenting, but also to lead toward how they were like the OG brain developers inside of our pepe. So that's that kōrero, right? About indigenous whakaaro, not just Māori, but indigenous whakaaro being a leading way forward for how we can be well, for well-being, for our nation, for our world. You can feel a real change of the community positioning. They're reimagining their own futures. That's mana motuhake. It's them taking it back. Angie, te kōrero kai?
Well, I was just going to say to the whānau, kaue e whakamā, because I know some of you online, and we can't usually get a word in edgewise with some of you, but you've gone a bit quiet, so don't be shy. Unmute and have a little kōrero. We'd love to hear what you've noticed or what you shared.
We see decision makers. We see decision making happening at young age, working with rangatahi in the decision space, working out how best to engage with young people. This is the thing, right? We've been asking that question for a long time. How do we engage young people? And we've been trying to co-design that to figure out easy. Ask.
Just because Angie said, gonna just pipe up, I'll be really quick. Just around the smoking thing, I think one of the things that I don't work in the space at all, but as an ex-smoker and as someone who knows a lot of people that smoked and smoke and all of this stuff, the thing that really struck me is the almost universal disgust and anger at the repeal of the law, at the pushing back. Like 10 years ago, most of us wouldn't have even cared. And that, the shift that has happened in that, and I find that massively promising.
Also just saying kōrero around, like there's an appetite and a willingness for whakaaro Māori mātauranga from whānau inside of the system. Now this is really difficult for me to look into because I don't see any other way, and the people that I live with live this way. So the thought that they are trying to take it away, I don't know, is that what I'm trying to get at? But I don't see the appetite I don't see the appetite because everyone around me has that appetite. So is that a new thing that's coming through? I know that since we started to talk about Hautū Waka, people are grasping for it, which is why we did it the way that we did. We did it in dives, in different three levels. So the level that you guys are getting, this level that we're doing now, this is still in the pipi dive sector. This is still very much shallow diving, stepping, because you're only going to get a little bit wet. But even in that, it's still quite vast. And then the rukukina, that's for those that work in Te Māori to delve. It must be for them because this thing that we've got, it's sacred. Not to say that you can't have it. That's not what we're saying. We say this is what you can have. This is what you can work with inside of the pipi dive. But see how deep it is, even inside of the pipi dive. And then you've got the last space, which is probably the only ones that can ruku in that will probably be Papa and like our amazing tohunga, Papa Rereata. Te rangi mā tamo, he won't say himself that. But yeah. Otherwise, this was our session. I'm going to leave it open for like a few more seconds. Ka tahi anō ka tahuri atu ki a koe rere. Please write your observations inside of the chat, just so that we can capture it all and start creating a menu of tohu sightings and opportunities. So we're going to capture all of that kōrero later. Ka tahuri atu ki a koe rere. Oh,
sorry, Riri. Just before, because we've got time, just before we go to Riri, are there any pātai about the kōrero that Roimata's just shared with us? Just so you know, I like an awkward silence, so I'll just hit. Oh, there, who's got one?
Kia ora, tangata patapātai tēnei. I'm always known for having 20 million questions. But for some of us who may be curious in diving a little bit deeper for kina and understanding what the context of that sort of level of diving, how do we conduct that space of wānanga? How do we conduct that level? And I am mindful that there are a handful of us here that do have a particular focus on mātauranga Māori, so potentially a good space to wānanga, and maybe there's a bit of curiosity or appetite for some of us on that level.
Ana, ko pātai atu tēnei kia papa. Like, he pātai rawe atu tēnei. It's a really good question in the sense where, what does a kina dive look like? And, you know, when we were talking about this with Pa, a kina dive looks like those that work in Te Māori executing what this looks like. Because this isn't a new thing. This is not a new process. We practice, and we've been doing Hautū Waka for a long time, but what does Hautū Waka look like in your mahi? In this past weekend that just went past, they had a taia wānanga, which I wasn't able to go to because I'm meant to be in Korea right now. But they had Hautū Waka thought processing in their mahi. So for us as Māori, but more so Māori practitioners who work in Te Māori, this is not a new thing. So when we come together, and the deepening happens when the kōrero i te wānanga. How do we do that? Is when we look to our those who already have that knowledge base, right? Like we're looking to Papa, we're looking to people that work in Paiao, Tame for like hunting stuff. That's how we do it. Inside of this space, I don't karawa'o. I wouldn't know how we would do that because I wouldn't be comfortable in bringing in a kina dive into this space. Me waiho atu ki te ao Māori ko tēnā. So let's just in this space, just dwell inside of it.
Ka pai.
Iruene, kōrero. I just saw your kōrero.
I'm going to hand it to Riri in a second, but I think in acknowledging the kōrero that you've just given us, Roimata, I personally would be interested in a deep dive in terms of practitioners who are using this framework and this practice and system change, so a bit longer, and for us to talk about it in the context of the mahi. I'd be interested in doing that. If that's something that others would be interested, we could host a wānanga of types where people can come and bring the mahi and how they're applying it and what they're seeing and what the practice is that's developing. So that might be one thing, and that's in this space, but acknowledging what you're saying, Roimata, about who the true tohunga are for this mātauranga.
And can I just clarify? We can absolutely do that, but just keep in mind it will only still be in a hippie dive sense, not a ruku kina or a ruku popo. It'll still be in a hippie dive because there's still so much.
Yes, yeah, ka pai. I was gonna also, if we do a wānanga, I was thinking Ahipara is a good space. I don't know if you know someone that lives there, Riri, but I was just thinking what a lovely place to go that might be close to the beach and to the ngahere. So I'll hand it over to Riri to close us off. Kia ora te whānau.
Tēnā rā tātou. Hara mai te tahi kōrero e hauma, e roi, mo te whakawaha i ngā whakamaramatanga o te Hautū Waka, ko koe kei tawhiti. Ko ngā maunga whakahioponga pē, e haruru pai nei, e rongo ana o maunga i tō reo. He waimaria o iwi i a koe. Huri noa ki ngā maunga, ki ngā awa, tēnā rā koutou, i tūhonohono mai ki tēnei pūnaha wānanga, tēnei pūnaha kōrero, e mihi nei, e mihi nei, e mihi nei. Ki oku tungane, e mihi ana ki a koe rere ahu, e rui nei, ki a kaurua, pai te kite i o koutou kanohi, i o koutou mata, i wainganui i tēnei hāpori o tātou, nō reira, kia u, kia maia ki ngā mahi tēnā rā kaurua. Roimata, thank you so much for showing us what you've got in your kete. And in terms of Hautū Waka, thank you very much for sharing. You're a gem to have close by, that's for sure. So thank you, Roimata, for everything that you've shown us and had discussions with us today. Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge also everyone who has found the time to jump on to our platform to share this space, share whakaaro about the tohu that we're seeing and how we react with the influence and our interpretations of those tohu that we're seeing in our own settings. So thank you all for attending. What's next? We have some great stuff coming up in April. Now Kiana's gonna send some links that I'm going to talk to, which is the website, the promotion for Tiriti-based futures, which have some key speakers in there. So do have a look at the link that Kiana's going to send through. In our April session, next time is we've got the Convening Connections, which is held on April the 3rd from 9:30 to 11 a.m. usually, but with the slight differences of the format. So this time we're going to join forces with co-hosts from Canada, welcoming participants from Australia, North America, and more. It's part of an international research series that's focused on understanding the relationships between personal and structural work for systems change. So it's going to be epic if you can please join. In April, we'll also look at this will look at a lens from an Aotearoa perspective with Amy Hardrip from Tamariki Wellbeing TSI, Tania Radford from Te Whatiora, Angie Tangere from the lab based on their work with Early Years Learning Platform. Details of the kōrero will be sent up for the April session by Kiana. However, since this is a larger research project, we recommend registering officially through the link that will be shared by Kiana. So if everyone can please double check and look to see what Kiana has sent in the email, that would be cool. Other than that, thank you very much for your time. I know time is precious. And so in saying that, thank you very much for everyone jumping on board. Yeah, Practice Foundation, thank you all. So we'll close off with a bit of a kōrero taku o karakia for our wahanga. Kia hihiri a ke tātou. Te kina atu rā te Māori hihiri. Te kina atu te Māori hihiko. Ko te Māori tohua mai ai he pukenga, he kōrero, he wānanga. Ko ia te takere o te waka nui. Ko ia te takere o te waka ingo. Tēnei waka kua te rekitai. Tēnei waka kua tau ki uta. Ko te uepu katu, ko te uepu ka moe. Tēnei te uepu ka whakamaua kia tēnā. Tēnā haumie huie tai ki. Tēnā rā tātou. Pai te rā. Have a good day.
Kia ora rā, Riri. Kia pai tō koutou rā.